Yo, what's going on? I can't pause this video, so I'm going to play it.
Physical and virtual worlds, and they're merging.
The intersection of games with reality.
How you can interact and create new emerging communities in gaming.
That the metaverse isn't just a destination, it's also a process.
They're driven by these things that are more whimsical in nature that then drive innovation forward.
It all comes back down to storytelling.
Making games that live on top of a real world, so we have an alternate, better, more engaging way of experiencing reality.
Code the principles of Web3 into the metaverse and make it an open one.
It has to be open.
The metaverse isn't some far-off future.
The future's already here.
It's emerging right now.
Okay, so that sounds cool, right? But imagine if I told you that there's been no updates on that in like quite some time. Everybody that got their NFTs initially were people that bought it, and it's been virtually silent, and half of their stuff doesn't work. Just absolutely unbelievable. The frustration that's out there is insane. So I just want to start that off here because we're going to go into some positive things, but we continue to see things that are not so positive and people not being transparent in a world that is supposed to be transparent within the blockchain. Welcome to another edition of XFeed. What's up? My name is The Schiller. I've been talking about NFTs, crypto, and all that kind of jazz for quite some time. We're currently doing the RWA Segments podcast as well. So we'll get into one of the recent episodes that I did this week because it talks about stablecoins, and that is a huge topic that we will go over today as well, along with Bitcoin and everything else. So $800 billion asset manager Bernstein says it's $200,000 Bitcoin price prediction for 2025 is conservative. So what happens? So what happens if this ends up being true? And I mean this from a couple of different standpoints. I mean from us that are out there, that are in the space that, we would say, we're NFT collectors, paying attention to what's going on, and, more on like, we'll say the community side of things. But then there's people that aren't in crypto whatsoever. And then what we'll also get into is the world, the jobs that are out there, what it's going to be like for people that are younger right now, looking for some sort of hope in what seems to be kind of an uncertain future with all of this AI. And if an asset in particular is doing very well, do we see a huge uptick of people that are wanting to speculate, join in on that, see what it's all about, or is it just going to go by and be kind of a nothing burger? And I think that it's not going to be a nothing burger, and we're going to see much, much more of the adoption rate for crypto as a whole continue to pick up. And we're going to go over the Coinbase report here momentarily. So here, listen to this clip right quick.
Well, so why won't
going everywhere?
If it's ramping up in terms of its success, and let's say that that's exponential, because perhaps it might be, why won't Bitcoin just suck the investment capital out of everything?
It is, and it will.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
True. Now, I mean, he's talking specifically about Bitcoin, but I think crypto as a whole, as you see, when you're comparing to stocks, when you're comparing to any sort of other thing out there that you can get into, we've seen some massive upticks and massive returns. And again, this isn't a show where we're necessarily talking about speculation by any means, but people are going to see, all right, well, what's the chances of something within this industry moving, and then the community getting absorbed digitally online, the culture as well for the younger people, where we know, hey, listen, every single day you'll go on and you'll see that people are talking about, kids are all on their phone or they're on their iPad and they're getting phones at like 5 years old, whatever the hell it is. It's all technologically driven. And so the adoption curve for all of that is going to be just exponential in of itself. Goodbye and good luck. Look at this screenshot from back in 2017. Ringo says, hello, what can we do with CryptoPunks? And then they list theirs for 0.3. And they say, so that's it. Buy and sell or give away. Perfect. Goodbye and good luck. They sold that for 0.3 ETH, which was $89 at the time. 0.3 ETH right now, I want to say that's like $750-ish. But then CryptoPunks themselves are over $100,000. Talk about believing in something early and coming up in a good way on it. Now, while there's some positivity around crypto adoption and all that kind of jazz, there are people that are saying, you know what, hold on a second, maybe the speculation, maybe the unsurety around it is maybe something that we don't want to touch. So Connecticut passes law to ban state investment in Bitcoin or investing in any virtual currencies. Shall see how well that ages. Okay. Grandparents that trust the news are about to be in trouble. So let's just play this right quick.
Angela Carter here, live from the Cedar Grove flood disaster. Just kidding, I'm not real. This is Dana Brooks reporting live from Ocean View Beach. Just kidding, I'm not real. This is Charlotte Reed reporting live from Clearwater Beach, where an unidentified... Just kidding, I'm not real.
Just kidding, Keck W. It's wild to think about, though, because legitimately, this is going to end up being like a huge problem. And I've caught myself looking at something and then being like, hold on a second, that seems almost like, you know how gravity works, and then something happens, you're like, I don't think that certain thing should fall that way. That looks sort of weird. Okay, these people are missing fingers within certain things, right? And that's something that's being pointed out. And I saw somebody post earlier that I don't know how real it was because I quickly scrolled past, but it was like the new Disney posters. They're saying this is AI generated because like within the image, the hand drawing, it had like some wonky fingers with it. And you could just tell like, that's not exactly real. Heard a couple interesting things from Garga during their spaces the other day with Steve and Chris Jordan. And I don't think they would have said this before, the new regime in the United States. But in quotes, you can go in for the long game, not 3 to 5 years, but 20-year timeline. Gargo likes to see ApeCoin back at 2 to 3 or even $4 US. I'm shocked that he ended up giving like a price prediction on this. Kind of crazy. Not sure if they're able to pull it off, but at least to believe in the intention are there. So again, my personal take on everything around other side is, do we see everybody that's doing something metaverse related try to compete, launch something, kind of vitalize that narrative around it? And does that have a trickle on effect for anything that is associated with something in the metaverse, which obviously ApeCoin is a part of that. We've seen the ApeCoin DAO also looking at, I don't know if they're shutting down, disbanding, reorganizing, or it's going to be in Yuga's lead. These are the questions that we're going to kind of have in the back of our minds that we know as things are progressing. Does that end up boding well for the coins? Because one thing that we keep going to is anytime there's positive price action on something, we immediately say, well, what was the catalyst for that? Why? What was the rationale? When we forget, hey, you know, a lot of this is kind of speculation. Like in the beginning days, if you go on my YouTube channel and you go for like oldest videos, you'll probably find some random old RuneScape videos, but you'll also see where a couple of us that minted Bored Apes, we just had like a live stream. We sat around like a round table sort of deal, and we're just talking about, hey, you know what? This is kind of cool. Feels like this could end up being huge. And it was. So a little bit of an inclination, if you will. We are living in the junk wax era 2.0. 10 years from now, 99% of the sports card produced today will be worthless. Don't believe me? Just look at how many Jaden Daniels parallels are in the 2024 Prism football. So notice this photo for Jaden Daniels. So there's, I'm not going to go through all of them because Choice Nebula Prism, all right, cool. Black Shimmer Prism, Black Finite Prism, okay, cool. And then you just keep going down. And these are all supposed to be 1 of 1s, and then 5 of 5s, and then it goes, well, 8 of 8, 10 of 10s, 10 of 10s, and then it goes down to 25. And these are all the exact same, but just changed a little bit. So how do you think it's going to be for people that are out there collecting cards? Does it make you almost say, hey, you know what, for these digital collectibles, we're able to see how many of them that there are? Obviously, these ones are listed, so you kind of have an idea on the physical realm, but you know how much quicker it is to be able to find that when there's all these databases online for it. But crazy to look at, and we'll see what kind of the implications of all this kind of jazz is moving forward. NFT Summer of 2025 says, nah, man. They have 1 Bored Ape, 1 Pudgy Penguin, 1 Milady Maker, an Azuki, Doodles, Space Doodles, Moonbirds, Quirkies, Originals, Cyber Brokers, and Regenerates. I don't know what a Regenerate is. But do you like that portfolio? What do you think? Having a little bit of a, you know, spread out look and wanting to see what ends up popping off within Web3. And to go back to this as well, do we have people that are changing their perspective of, hey, you know what, these are communities, these are longer term things, where they're just happy with holding something? As Garga says, we're going for the 20 years, not the 2 to 3. Just in, the SEC may approve crypto index ETFs as early as next month, possibly triggering an altcoin ETF summer. Bloomberg analyst Eric Balchunas says. What happens with the ETFs? Do we see massive bids with on tokens? Do we see it as well where, I mean, for Bitcoin, right, we've seen all of these massive announcements of these companies going and buying large amounts and then the price seemingly not moving whatsoever. So do these smaller tokens that end up getting ETFs and potentially a decent sized bid on them end up having some market traction? Does this create the altcoin season? Questions, questions, questions. It's all about questions. 2025 is 44% complete. Imagine that, almost halfway through. So this might be a stupid thought, but there is no stupid thoughts or questions, right? That's what they say. Doing things in person costs money more often than not. You want to go out, probably have to get in your car unless you're taking the bus, insurance, gas prices, end up going out, might have to eat out. I mean, in general, eating usually costs money as well. But then everything online, have you noticed that, like, generally it's free? And sure, we can get into the semantics of, oh, you know, these social sites, they're farming your data, everything else. But you can entertain yourself. You can do so much online where anything in person costs an absolute fortune right now. So it goes back to the younger person adoption. If they're struggling out there, where are they going to resort to for their entertainment and everything they do all day, every day? Online. Somebody bought a LeBron Series 1 for $16,000. So I'm not ready to call like, hey, yeah, Top Shot's going to go on like this hyperbolic run type of deal. But wow, there we go. Big purchases are back and they always get attention. And similar to like the NFT space, which Top Shot is a part of, but I've always kind of felt like we've seen grails run and then it ends up everything else, right? So like as an example for CryptoPunks, we saw the likes of the zombies, the monkeys, all those like rare CryptoPunks going. And then all of a sudden we're starting to see the whole floor of CryptoPunks really get some larger bids. Massive news as well. Stripe to acquire crypto wallet provider Privy. Stripe agreed to acquire crypto wallet provider Privy, building on the payment company's recent acquisition of stablecoin infrastructure firm Bridge. The terms of the transaction weren't disclosed. Privy helps companies build crypto wallets into their user experiences. Non-fungible token marketplace OpenSea, for example, uses Privy to enable users to purchase NFTs directly from its platform. Behind the scenes, Privy creates a wallet on behalf of the customers, which facilitates their purchase. Before the partnership, OpenSea customers needed to create an external wallet through a provider like MetaMask or Coinbase Wallet and link to their account. So again, just making things easier, but Stripe doing a lot within stablecoins and picking up a wallet provider. Not too shabby. We're still on this topic of stablecoins. Just in, Bank of America CEO confirms it's developing its own stablecoin. And with that being said, I had a big discussion this week with Lance from XDC about stablecoins. And one of the questions I asked within this is, well, we've seen certain people launch, whether it be an individual or a company, launch a token and seemingly get all the liquidity from the space for 1 or 2 days. Do we see a certain provider of these stablecoins come into the space and see a little bit of a mismatch from people going from USDT over to USDC, USDC over to PayPal USD, the Ripple stablecoin, which again today we also saw that on the XRP ledger, USDC, which is the largest regulated stablecoin, is now on that network. And we get into a whole lot more. If you haven't heard about XDC, if you want to learn about a little bit more about RWAs, RWA Segments Podcast, link down in the YouTube description below, or if you click on my profile, or just type in RWA Segments on any podcasting platform. The Q2 2025 State of Crypto report just dropped, and it is a doozy. You're probably not bullish enough. So let's look at their infographic here. I'll try to make it a little bit bigger. Boom. Nearly 1 in 5 of Fortune 500 executives say on-chain initiatives are a key part of their company's strategy moving forward, up to 47% year on year. 9 in 10 Fortune 500 executives agree that clear regulation in the US on crypto, blockchain, or Web3 and on-chain is needed to support innovation. That's an interesting one. 6 in 10 Fortune 500 executives say their companies are working on blockchain initiatives. It's a good percent. 1/3 of small businesses use crypto, twice as many in 2024. So when we talk about crypto and exponential adoption, and we've gone over it before. We haven't looked at some of the charts, right? But as an example, there was certain, I don't know if it was like a BlackRock or just like a real world asset tokenized goods projection, but it just goes crazy. Like after 2027 to like 2030, it just goes off the chart in terms of adoption for that specific sector. And I mean, here, this is a 2x, right? Which doesn't sound like all that magnificent, even though, you know, if I said, hey, you know what, you want to double your money? You're like, hold on a second, that sounds like a scam. And you're like, true. But in certain cases, that's the actual adoption. 161 million stablecoin holders, more than the population of the 10 largest cities in the world. 245x growth over 5 years in real-world asset tokenization to over 21 billion in April of 2025. It's also a little bit, we're talking about that exponential, and 54% growth in global stablecoin supply year on year. So continuing it to grow. And I love this as well. Toronto Blue Jays versus St. Louis Cardinals. Somebody had a backyard cam, and I guess they had a couple of birds. Absolutely love it. And then here's Luca giving some advice for some smaller NFTs out there. And this is, I'm not really sure what to think of this because he gives an interesting perspective. So we'll let him talk and then I'll just give a rebuttal, I guess.
So there's literally a bunch of NFT communities right now that are in like permanent purgatory. And it's not like they still have runway, they're still trying, but they can't get traction for the life of them. Everything they try is just failing, and it's been failing. It's been failing through the bear market. It's been years of nothing. What advice do you have for them?
They're not building with their community. So I think there's this relationship that a lot of people that are running crypto companies think it's them here and then everybody else here, right? And I think the problem is like you can't galvanize and rally and create trust when there's this power dynamic of you being above even your smallest holder. I try this to the best of my ability, right? And sometimes you have bad days and sometimes it doesn't reign true, but like to the best of my ability, I am eye to eye with my smallest holder, right? They are no lesser than the next person. Now, some people are crazy and, you know, this crypto, right? So like you get some one-offs and like, you're just like, I got to ignore you. I can't respond to every message that you send. But like the point of the matter is like, I was them. I was a down bad NFT holder that was in the hole hundreds of thousands of dollars on my penguins. And I'm trying to make this work with them, not at their expense, right? So my thing is like, I see a lot of people still have, like you said, 10, 20, $30 million in treasury, but they have this like pretentious energy and relationship with their user base where it's like, you can tell just in the way that they interact on Twitter and they communicate, like their holders are beneath them. And that is the problem, I think. I think the best thing that you have to do is meet your community where they are and understand that like that holder can be me. Like there's holders in the community that can be me 5 years from now. That can be more successful.
No, you're one of one. No, there fucking aren't. I would bet my net.
So, yeah, what's up, Hoonsy? And Diana, what the heck do you mean reply in the chat? God, come on, the Glazer host, crazy. Well, true, Hoonsy. But the, okay, so here's the thing with this, is the question was about what do you do if you're like in purgatory where you're like not able to get adoption, whatever else, and the response, which, I mean, it's fine as it is, but it was talking about like, you know, you have to treat the holders the same, like all of them exactly the same, but that doesn't really like help, right? You know what I mean? Like how does that like get people's attention for it? How does that create any sort of like product market fit? You know, if we're going out there and saying, oh, like, yeah, let's be friendly and we can like talk and do all that stuff. I don't know what exactly that would do to help those teams that have potentially, you know, $10 million to be able to get more of an adoption, unless we're looking at this specifically from like a social means, because I absolutely think that's a thing. And I mean, there's a collection called Psychedelic Anonymous, if you guys remember that. And there's a lot of projects that at one point switched ownership of some sort, and that was one. And the concept around there was like that they were wanting to fund different like pharmaceuticals in a way, and to help people get treatment. And there was certain, I forget, there was another company that was offering like free therapy, right? And there's certain things that are offered that I think is really, really cool, but I don't know if saying, hey, yeah, you know what, if we just kind of like treat them on the same level, that it's going to kind of change anything, unless we're looking at it specifically from a social dynamic where we're trying to get people to go out there and promote things. And I agree, there's definitely projects that probably could do like a better way of like rallying their community and whatnot, and sure, that's a part of it. But I think the broader issue is that like a lot of the stuff is trying to do exactly the same thing from one project to another. A lot of it is just the same. Like, no cap. It's just the same. So it is what it is. But Hoonsy, thank you so much for coming on through. That's going to be it for this edition of XFeed. Listen, I got reprimanded yesterday for only doing a 15-minute stream. So this one, we're about to touch 20. But again, we're wanting to keep these short, simple, sweet, to the point, allow you to get on with your day and just kind of give you a little bit of a hit of Web3 and crypto news. Thank you so much for coming on through. Diana as well. Anybody that watches afterwards, enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace.